More now on one of our breaking stories tonight. Patrick Brown officially withdrawing from the PC leadership race, citing several reasons, including threats made against his friends and family.
What did they ask you? What did they talk to you about?
And right now, to drill down a little bit on this, we welcome John Wright, political analyst, CEO of DART Insight and Communication. Thank you for joining us.
Great to be here, Pam.
Does it surprise you? I mean, there's never a dull moment these days, right?
No, well, politics is one of those strange beasts. We know that it can change by the hour, and we've seen things here. But what strikes me of this is that two things happened in the last 24 hours, which I think prompted this. I mean, there's what's written on paper, and then there's another portion of this. First of all, the Integrity Commissioner indicated that there was going to be an investigation on a whole wide range of things. But below the surface, it was acknowledged by Hamilton Police that there's now an investigation into fraud. And a series of other things which are at the local level. And this goes back to a nomination process, and they've got texts and emails which were out. And I think that's the straw that broke the camel's back. You've got an embattled leader who's now under investigation from a number of sources. You start to then pile it up and say that, you know, even with his own party, they would say you're under criminal investigation. It may not be him, but it's his organization and how they went about that. And I think that's when people look at you and say, let's cut and run. You're out of this completely.
Right.
So
I mean,
I think that's when it happened.
Other leaders have attempted to come back after being ousted for whatever, one reason or another, but they've never been surrounded by this cloud of scandal on so many different levels. Like, as you say, it's not just sexual inappropriateness. It's the nomination thing.
Right.
It's like, you know.
Well, there also comes a point where, I mean, Patrick Brown's greatest strength was his organizational abilities inside of that Tory party. And so that, you know, when you get down to a membership fight, it's very different than a voting circumstance on the outside. I mean, you and I vote and you kind of go into a riding and you do your thing. But a membership contest is very, very different. There are alliances, there's different groups of people.
Yes.
And remember, he was the one that put this party together some time ago, so he's got all of that infrastructure. He may have had that attempt to move forward. He may have had some legitimacy, but getting to the floor and not winning it in the first go would have allowed someone like Christine Elliott probably to move forward anyways, with Doug Ford supporting her. So at the end of the day, I think, you know, it's a good thing. He stepped aside for his own purposes. The party now has a better chance of uniting, and I'll speculate and say that probably Christine Elliott is probably the front runner right now, and if Ford folds into her, I think she will be the leader of the Tory party.
You think Ford is going to fold into her?
Well, listen, I think it all comes down to the numbers. And I think Doug Ford has got a lot of support in the city of Toronto. I mean, you would imagine he would in Scarborough and Etobicoke and places like that. But when you get outside of there, remember Chris Elliott comes from Whitby. A lot of her support in the 905. And then throughout the province, she's also inherited her husband's network.
Right.
And she had run for leader before. So you've got a network throughout the province. So, you know, on that scale alone, if she's got 2/3 and he even had 1/3, then the question is, what's the political way of putting this together? And I can see they're friendly. I mean, the two camps are friendly.
Yes.
The one outlier in all of this has been Carolyn Mulroney, who in fact has attacked Patrick Brown, which is fine. She's vindicated now at the end of the day. But you know, they have to come together now to fight a common foe, and they're having a debate in the next 48 hours. We'll see how that goes. But they're not very far apart on any of the policies. It really now is about the winnability for the province against somebody who 80% of the province wants change.
So we heard it here first. Christine Elliott is your call.
I think she's ahead in the horse race.
What do you think about the lawsuit of Patrick Brown against CTV? Does it like sort of smack of desperation here? What do you think?
Well, I don't think. Listen, I think there's a personal circumstance here where he has to be vindicated. And part of that was his political vindication, which stopped short today. But I think there's a personal circumstance where someone wants to, you know, make sure that the record is straight for what it is. I think he had to do it. I think it's very strange. You know, we've had a generation where we've had the media keeping accountability of politicians. Now we're going to have politicians keeping accountability on the media. I think it will work both ways, but I think that's something he had to do.
Right. Interesting times ahead. Thank you so much, John Wright, for being with us.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you for joining us tonight, and we'll be right back.